Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to Thursday. I hope you're having a good week. My name is Stacey DeCalma, and I'm the Executive Director for Sector Workforce Planning and Development here at QCOSS. And part of my role here is that I have for many years now been hosting the Quality Collaboration Network, and some of my colleagues are on the line who assist me with that work and are taking carriage of some of that work also, and Amy, who hosts the Research and Evaluation Network. And this session today is really a co-hosted session between the Quality Collaboration Network and the Research and Evaluation Network, because when we did our skills, our gaps and needs analysis at the end of last year, we had a few mutual topics, which is really exciting. So across the year, you'll see both networks have some of their individual meetings, but we have a few co-hosted meetings to cover those topics through which we had mutual interest. So welcome to all of you, and to any who are new, and a special welcome to you. You'll find that we do put you on automatic mute when you come into the session, so that we're not hearing lots of background noise. That's just to make sure that we're able to maintain focus for everyone attending. But you're really welcome to participate in the session as much as you're able to. Utilise the chat. We will have some question and answer time where you'll be able to ask questions and participate in the discussion. Okay. Now, I'm on the land of the Yagara and Turrbal people today. I'm in West End in Brisbane, so I'd like to pay my respects to their elders past and present and thank them for their continuing connection to this place. And of course, I'm acknowledging any First Nations people on the line today and the land that you are all coming from too. And I would like to also acknowledge by name the Yugambeh speaking nation on whose land I raise my family and live presently, and the Darungal people of Central Queensland on whose land I was born and raised before I came to this place here. I encourage you all to acknowledge the land that you're on in the chat. Okay, so some introductions. I've introduced myself and some of my colleagues who are on the line. Kelly, who might give a little wave, and Amy, who's also on the line, and those who have participated frequently in the Research and Evaluation Network will be really familiar with Amy and our team from QCOSS. We've also got we've got two special guests on the line that I'm going to introduce in greater detail in just a second. Our colleagues from MIFA. Now, in the learning and development space, of which most of my team works in, an Amy too, one of the perpetual challenges we have is creating a connection between theory and practice. And so it's always really exciting for us to find speakers and organisations who are willing to share their learnings across the sector. And so we have been joined by two of the team members from MIFA today to talk about Finding North, a really exciting program, and really shining a light on what it looks like to practice co-design and what it looks like to incorporate those principles of inclusion and voice into the work that we do across the sector. So really excited to have them today, and they're going to be sharing some great insights with us. At the end, we'll have a little bit of general business and upcoming events and a few updates from those networks, the Research Evaluation Network and the Quality Collaboration Network, and we'll just be sharing a few of our upcoming events with all of you. So that's what we've got in our now 55 more minutes together this morning. All right, so I'm going to jump into introducing our colleagues Donna Didlick and Hayley Harris. So Donna, there she is. She just gave a little wave. Thanks for joining us, Donna. Donna is a highly experienced in the community services sector and has excelled in program development, quality management systems, and workforce development. All the things that are really exciting to most of us who are on the line. Her track record includes a series of successful projects and programs delivered for renowned organisations and government departments. Within MIFA, Donna leads the Finding North initiatives, working in close collaboration with Hayley Harris and Crystal Heffron. Together, they are dedicated to overseeing projects that amplify the voices of individuals with lived experience. And MIFA actively involves a co-design team and Finding North Network Advisory Group to ensure that Finding North is led and shaped by those who have first-hand experience with mental health conditions. Donna is a firm believer in the power of harnessing lived experience to guide future mental health policies and service reforms, and ultimately paving the way for improved mental health outcomes for all. Hayley Harris is on the line too. She is based in Western Australia, so I believe she's gotten up earlier than the rest of us to participate in this session today. So thank you, Hayley. Hayley is a passionate advocate and community leader with a deep commitment to mental health advocacy, driven by her own lived experience with mental health challenges. Hayley's purpose is to ensure that lived experience voices are heard and supported to drive change. With a diverse and extensive background in the mental health sector, Hayley brings a wealth of experience to Finding North. Beyond mental health, Hayley has experience working in disability services, aged care and the youth sector, and was even employed as an Auslan interpreter. She currently holds a position on the board of Consumers of Mental Health WA, and Hayley's involvement with MIFA started as a lived experience representative in the Finding North co-design team. Presently, she holds the role of the lived experience lead at MIFA. A really warm welcome to the both of you, and as I just said, it's always exciting for us to find organisations and speakers who are able to bring the values of this sector, including lived experience and the principles of co-design, are able to share your experience of actually implementing those principles. So really exciting to have you with us here this morning. Thanks, Donna and Hayley. I think I'm handing over to you first, Donna.
Yeah, thanks, Stacey. Can everyone hear me okay? I'll just double check. Thank you for the warm welcome, and welcome to everyone today. We're really excited to share the journey we've been on since the start of 2020 in relation to this project and how we've evaluated it along the way and the challenges that we have experienced. Just before we start, I just wanted to acknowledge our evaluation partners, Gretchen Young and Sue Goodwin. Sue Goodwin is actually in the meeting today. She's giving a little wave. So hopefully, Sue will be here at the Q&A. So if you want to hear from, I suppose, the evaluator's perspective on this, that would be a good chance to maybe throw a question to Sue's way there. And I just want to hand over to Hayley just to do a quick acknowledgement of lived experience. We always like to do that at the start of any significant meetings that we hold. Oh, your voice. We can't hear you. No. Say again.
No. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Sorry, while I was in the background, nothing wants to work. So I'm glad I know what to do now. So thank you, Donna, and thanks for the introduction before. So firstly, I'm meeting on Wajak Noongar Budja, as was acknowledged. So I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which I'm meeting, and also, that recognition of lived experience. So during lived experience acknowledgements, I often hear the phrase, "I stand on the shoulders of giants," and so I think about those people whenever I give an acknowledgement. It's those people I recognise who came before me, who led the way for us to be able to listen to lived experience voices and to be able to make changes in the systems. So I recognise those people for their determination, their courage and their anger, which led them to fight for better. We recognise my amazing peers who currently fight tirelessly, changing broken systems and pushing for reform. I recognise the families who bore witness to the suffering and lovingly, painstakingly advocated for a better world. And finally, we recognise those lived experience peers who don't yet know that there is a community and a movement that battles for them with love and care we recognise in their pain and isolation, and we hope that one day they will find their way to their community. So anyone who is joining us on these teams today who comes with lived experience, I see you and I acknowledge you. And if you love someone closely and care for someone with a lived experience, I see you as an extension of my own family, of my own lived experience family. So I see you, I acknowledge you, and thank you all so much for being here and helping us to amplify the voices of lived experience.
Thank you, Hayley. We found it's really important. It's at the heart of the work we do in Finding North. It is driven mostly by people with lived experience. So we continually want to check in and recognise that voice and the importance of that. And also it helps to shift the power and acknowledge those who are in the room that are speaking from that perspective. So thank you very much, Hayley. I'm going to share my screen now, so bear with me in case I get the wrong screen happening, but we'll should be right. So you might see yourselves for a second, just until I present.
Apparently I'm a sloth.
That's my lovely background, smiling animals. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes, we can. I thought that was an intentional joke that you were making about us, Donna.
No, I have this lovely background that changes all the sloth's a bit creepy, but yeah, the other smiling animals pop up on my screen. So thank you for joining us today. We'll take you through a few sections of our journey. So I'll take you through what our objective was, some of the challenges we faced, then what we ended up co-creating together. We'll also look at how we evaluated it, or the approach we took. And Hayley will also speak to some lived experience lessons as well to think about in the projects that you might be working on or look to be working on in the future that may involve evaluation and lived experience. And then we'll open up to some Q&A at the end. So our journey, and I've been on this journey since the start, and so has Hayley, just in a different form. We were funded through the ILC and the ILC funding initiatives. I think most people would have heard of those. They were born out of the NDIS as a way of funding other programs and services outside of the NDIS to strengthen the community for people with a disability. We were successful in our funding application for a national information program round. So our first objective was to co-design psychosocial information resources. So we didn't have, we had some ideas around that, but our main aim was to say, look, we want to develop psychosocial information resources, and that language comes from the funding application itself. I don't talk about it in that terms, but we were charged with that. We were charged with that objective, but otherwise what that would turn out to be was really up to us in our co-design process. And that was in 2022. Then we were also successful for another ILC funding, probably about six to 9 months later, for the delivery of lived experience leadership community of practice. And as part of that, I break it out as a third objective because it's actually turned into something quite big, is to deliver online e-symposiums on a biannual. We hope eventually it'll be a yearly undertaking that we do, which is now is known as a conference called Perspectives, which is online and delivered nationally for people. So what I just wanted to mention was some of our challenges. Well, firstly, I suppose I wanted to think about how do I explain or how do I summarize the journey we've been on since 2020. And when I came, we'd already been successful with the funding. I wasn't part of the funding application or what we said in the tender that we would do. I was hired as a part of delivering this particular project. And I remember coming on board and being quite intimidated by it, thinking, okay, I've got to do a national project. We've got to co-create, co-design information resources for people with a psychosocial disability. For me, this is anybody who's experiencing mental health challenges in my mind, not necessarily people who are, we're not going to isolate just to people who may experience psychosocial disability. And apart from that, we have 2 years to do it. And then, of course, 2020, COVID hit as well. So we had plans of meeting together. We had a whole process planned out, which required us visiting most states and territories. That wasn't going to happen in 2020 at all. So we had to rethink everything. In the midst of that, we also received additional funding, which was to hold 20 community of practices in and around Australia as well. So COVID really put a spanner in the works for us, and we had to rethink the whole plan. And so I actually think it was something that was, it led to a project that was more sustainable in the long term and more accessible to more people, because we said we had to design something that it needed to be online because we couldn't travel, and people needed to be able to access it anywhere. So my thought was, well, it felt like we were setting off on a sailing ship on a sea that we can't control, in weather that we can't control. And I had done some sailing before, but probably not to this degree. So I had to do a lot of learning around how do I do that and what's the team I need on board to help me sail this ship in order to get it. And can we have enough courage to set forth in this ocean without knowing what our destination is going to be? Because that's the idea behind co-design, is being able to let go of what you think we are going to design and allow the collective to come together to co-design that. If you already know where you're going to go, then there's no point co-designing. People will be very frustrated if they're involved in a activity where they're being steered in a particular direction or a particular outcome. So for me, it was an exciting adventure. It was sunny. The seeds weren't that particularly rough, but it was a little bit scary, nerve-wracking, and it certainly was an adventure to go on. So I just want to talk to you about some of our environment, or what I'm naming as the sea that we were experiencing. So I've already said about COVID, which really was a challenge, but absolutely probably brought the best out of this project. Another challenge was really around genuine co-design. So there's numerous resources out there, and I know QCOSS will send out a list of resources, and I've seen that list and it's quite extensive. I did a lot of reading, so I'd really encourage people to do a lot of reading, but ultimately you need to plan your own path around co-design, and you need to do that in partnership with the team that you're going to co-design with. So you can follow and have a framework, but you have to bring people on board with what that is and allow them to kind of design what the process is they want to follow. But I had a lot of days where I continued to question myself, can I do genuine co-design? Because I had also learnt that if you don't do genuine co-design, people can leave feeling very, it can be left feeling like a tokenistic experience, and that was further stigmatizing people, further disempowering people. And so I was very mindful that it could go either way in relation to co-design. The other question I constantly had in my mind was, can we claim participant outcomes as our own? Governments, organizations, we loved to show outcomes, and we love to show, what has changed as a result of people's participation in whatever it is that we've created, whether it's a service or a website or whatever it might be. And then we claim that outcome as due to what we've created. So I always felt a little bit conflicted by that, because there's so much happening in people's lives. We may only be a small part of that. So I constantly look at our language around, we suspect that we contribute to this, but we know that there's many other things happening in people's lives and their own initiatives that are leading to their own outcomes. So we don't want to steal people's initiative, basically. We also had external evaluation. So it's not really a challenge. It was a great opportunity to involve young futures. It's really important to have a trusted evaluation partner, but also someone who's going to hold you to account, I suppose, and provide you with an objective point of view and work with you in relation to the project parameters. Additionally, the government, or DSS at the time, it was transferred to a different department. They were also evaluating the whole ILC project as well, and they required a whole set of data from us where they were trying to measure apples for apples across all of these ILC projects that were all extremely different. So they went through a couple of evaluation cycles, and there's a particular evaluation that I've listed in our resources that you can, one of the universities did, that you can have a look at if you're interested, that larger ILC evaluation process. The other thing we were battling was evaluation fatigue for participants. So there's been a huge push at a policy level around co-design and involving people in evaluations. Some of that always aren't of quality, and so some people's experiences is very varied. So we were just mindful of whatever we did, we wanted it to be value add to people's life, that it wasn't constant surveys and polls and things that people had to complete on a regular basis. And obviously time and resources is always everyone's challenge around, you've only got X amount of money, you've got X amount of time, you only got X amount of people. All three of us work part-time on this project. So they're just constant things that we all have to battle. So I already talked about the DSS evaluation, but that's the reference to it. So informing investment design, ILC research activity. One of the key things that came out of that report was that 1 to 2 years for a project is not significant enough time to achieve outcomes for people. So it's a very high ask to say, we want you to measure outcomes, and we want you to, one, co-design the program, deliver it, and then measure and have outcomes as a result of that within a 2-year period. Very difficult to do. So just leaning on our boat analogy, some of my learnings as the project manager for this particular project was that I needed to build a really strong boat and team in order to navigate our next few years together. And so these are just some of the things I did to strengthen our boat. It's not necessarily a plan that's going to work for everybody, but it made things for me a lot easier by doing these at the start of the project. So I was able to map and research similar projects. So we were looking, we didn't want to duplicate what was already out there. And if we were doing something similar to what was already out there, how were we going to be different? What was it that was already out there that wasn't quite meeting the mark, and where would we be different around that? So I do have a mapping document that I shared back with the department. If people are interested in that, just send me an email. It's only a point in time mapping project of 2020. Things have really shifted and changed since then. But if anyone's interested about how we did it, then please reach out. So researching co-design processes, reading a whole range of things, and then finding ones that we felt fitted our situation the best way possible. So also detailed project plans. So I find one of the things that's put us in good stead with the funders was having really detailed, transparent project plans, outlining our risks, our stakeholders, every step of the way of the process what we're going to do. So that really helped with our evaluation as well, to understand how that was going to fit in. I got to recruitment of the co-design team pretty much straight away. So they were all recruited and on board within 4 to 6 months, because there wasn't really much point doing anything unless I had that team in place to start to go through all of this information with. We had developed terms of reference in partnership with the co-design group and the advisory group, and later what would turn into the perspective working group. They were really foundational documents for us. One thing I didn't do that I would do in hindsight if I had my time over was build into those terms of references, how do we make decisions? What happens if we all don't agree? Are we going to do a majority decision? How will we handle that? So there was a couple of situations where we came to a point where we had a split in the co-design group around opinions of where we should go. We then had a meeting to sort of say, hey, I didn't plan for this. How do we want to handle this? So it wasn't the worst way, but I would have liked to have had that conversation with the team up front at the start of the journey. I've talked about engaging trusted evaluators. So we brought Young Futures on board early on in the project, and we had 2 evaluations plans, one for the National Information Program that we were doing and another evaluation plan for the community of practice. Eventually what's happened is we were extended funding, and we decided to, because they were both branded, both had similar aims, both had similar outcomes that we were trying to achieve, but we still had limited resources. We combined the evaluation together to evaluate Finding North as a whole in the long run. So we were really grateful to the evaluators to be flexible and to kind of change their approach as we went, and as we designed and changed our approach as well. The other key thing was project logics, being able to kind of plan out on the page what we were trying to achieve from short-term, medium-term, long-term outcomes, and what is all the data we're going to collect. So that one-page sort of map and evaluation plan was extremely important. Those then could also go to the co-design team and advisory groups for feedback and consultation before we actually implemented them. One of the things I can't stress enough is you cannot spend enough time building relationships between those members on the boat who are going on the journey with you. And that's through getting to know them as people, giving them space and time to talk about their lived experience perspective that they're coming from, getting time to know each other, helping them understand, what is co-design? How do we see it? What is lived experience? What's our joint definition of that? What does that mean in our context? So having all of those conversations, and this is all before you even talk about, okay, now we're going to co-design a national information program together. So we probably spent 6 months doing that, and it was worth it. And we continued to come back to rebuild that relationship time and time again with the team. And I think for me, as somebody on the boat, sort of responsible in a sense for the outcomes of this project, I felt like they were team members of mine and I could rely on them if I was struggling in any way. So I would just say, like, I'm experiencing this at the moment. This is, I'm having some doubts about X, Y, and Z. How do you guys feel about this? What's your perspective? What's your take on it? And so we're able to share the load of the project together. And then obviously, having those definitions. And a really key thing that we did was talking about what matters to us. So if we're going to evaluate something, what are we evaluating? If we're going to work together as co-design, what are the principles that we are going to uphold together and be responsible for? So our co-design principles, it's actually quite larger than this, but we have an explanation around openness and shared power, for example, but just for the sake of the presentation, I just put those here in the shortened form. And ultimately, I'd be happy to share those with anyone, but if you're going through this process, I'd really recommend that you develop your own principles for every occasion that you do with each particular group. We adopted ours from 2 different co-design principles where we borrowed some of where they're already listed, and then we amended those to make them feel like ours. And the group also came up with what I thought was, I didn't even see it coming, but they came up with a group mantra, which was something that was really, we revisited it quite a bit, but it was be prepared, be open, be respectful, be transparent, be bold, and be kind. And the team really lived up to that. So this gave me sort of my compass. As long as I was delivering on these things, then I felt like wherever we went, we would get to where we needed to go. And after each meeting, so part of the evaluation just started out by asking the co-design members to complete a quick survey after each meeting to say, out of 10, how did MIFA go about this particular principle, openness and share power. So we're able to get a quick sense check after each meeting whether we were actually hitting the mark on each of these principles. And then there was also a section where they could offer feedback around, well, what can we do differently to improve these? So one of those participative, we were a little bit low on compared to the others because there was a couple of members in the team that were quite quiet during the co-design meetings. So that was really good to sort of feel the difference within the co-design team, sort of thinking, well, I'm contributing a lot, but this person's not. And so that was good to know that that dynamic was happening. And so then I was able to work with the person who wasn't contributing as much and also talk to those who were contributing a lot and had that experience, and also talked about as a group how people can participate in a range of different ways, and some people are quite active in meetings, others will be more active on email and give feedback more after the fact. So we were able to sort of generate that kind of common understanding, whilst also I could check in with people to say, hey, is there any way I could help you participate more in this particular process? We also had a range of network principles when we went to build our community of practice. That was our foundation for our advisory group and all decisions we made around how we would create the network. So where did our journey take us? Because I think that was a really hard thing to hold, particularly when I'm reporting into a CEO and a board as well, to sort of say, yeah, I'm not sure where this is going to lead, or are you prepared if we create a whole website as an organization, are you prepared to support that? Because this is what the co-design team's saying that we want to do. So there's lots of conversations back and forth to say, you know, are we okay with this destination? Because this is what our lived experience experts are saying is needed. So I just want to share a little video, but I'm going to swap screens to do that. Just bear with me a second. Is there any thoughts you want to add, Hayley, while I'm just loading this up?
No, I don't think so. Just that it may be not as part of the co-design, but I just want to acknowledge like all of Donna's work that she's put into leading us, but also preparing this presentation. To continue on with the boat analogy, I think she was rowing and I dropped an oar and she kept it moving. So I'm just acknowledging all the hard work she's put in to this presentation, but into the whole thing. And I think having a leader like Donna overseeing a co-design group that's the best place you want to start, in short. So yeah, that's probably all I can contribute for now.
Hayley. So I'm just going to play a video, and I will apologize that the sound isn't the greatest, but I just thought it's better to see what actually came out of all of this activity. And it's a few minutes, it's a lot of screenshots rather than me talking to the website or talking to the network. And this way you can get a quick visual of a fraction of what was achieved in our work together. So I'm just going to play that now. Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Many of us live with mental health issues that can affect our self-worth, happiness, and ability to function. It's not always easy. We want to make a change, but knowing what direction is right and what resources we'll need or have access to can be just as confusing and exhausting. Finding North can help make the next step on that journey clearer. Finding North is where you can hear and learn from others going through the same experience, share your journey, and get the information that matters to you. Finding North is the open, online community of people with lived experience and mental health professionals who've come together to better connect you with the understanding you need to see what's possible. Join us online to start discovering your North.
The goal of Finding North is to help people to take that first step towards improving their mental health and wellbeing by recognising the struggles they face and deciding to seek help.
We do celebrate the launch of Finding North tonight. It's an amazing point to get to, and we really do acknowledge the work of the co-design teams in getting us to the point where we can launch Finding North.
It's about discovering your own true north, sharing stories and igniting hope in others to help them on the journey.
So back to this of the present. Apologies, 1 second. So hopefully that gives you just a little bit of a sense of what was achieved. So obviously we've got a whole website of information for people to help them navigate the mental health sector. We have a online network that's also an app that people can join if you have lived experience and you're interested in lived experience leadership. So we just want to grow more voices in that space. We want more people to feel comfortable and capable to utilize their lived experience expertise. And then we also host an annual lived experience online forum where there is only lived experience speakers, and the whole conference is designed by people with a lived experience as well. So, you know, it's not something I could have predicted when we set sail in 2020, but really proud of where we got to as a result. And we could have only have got there through the collective wisdom and expertise of everyone, not just our little team as MIFA. So how we evaluated, so we took a blend of process evaluation and outcome evaluation. I really wanted to know as we went, were we on the right track? Were people happy with what we were doing? Was it meeting people's expectations? What do we need to do to change course or realign our course throughout that? So we did a range of methods, and that changed over the time, and that it could have been because, you know, what was working and what wasn't in relation to collecting data, but also in relation to what resources we had and what the resources of the like how much we were paying the evaluator and what they could achieve within that amount of money as well. So things like polls, surveys, we did a lot of focus groups. We find that that's really quite successful. And if people were participating in focus groups, they were remunerated for their time in the focus groups. We've been collecting data along the way for all of the activities that we do. We've done one-on-one interviews quite a few, and also we have the evaluators come and go through a process with us as a project team as well to sort of say, you know, these are some of the emerging findings, this is what some of the data's presenting, how do you make sense of it, how are you feeling about the project? So that was a really good, that's a really good piece to sort of make sense of the evaluation, and that helps the evaluator also go away and write up their report. And then we did also a little bit, but I probably would have liked to do more of linking in with stakeholders to understand their perception of the project, who are probably 1 or 2 steps removed from the project as well. So just some of the things. And then we are tracking outcomes, but they are difficult to nail down or feel like you have enough evidence to say, yes, we are achieving this outcome, but we are starting to see some emerging findings. So what I really appreciated was that our evaluators have been providing us with snapshots and interim reports as we went. On the screen is a really small section of our project logic. It'll be on the presentation that we send out, so I'm not going to go through it, but it's a bit of a change theory approach that we applied to our last project logic, but we also have some caveats in there. For example, you know, number 5, it says our other factors beyond finding north are also likely to contribute to the achievement of the identified short, medium, or long term. So we really wanted to make sure, yes, we're sort of saying we think we are contributing to this, but ultimately it's people's own initiatives that are most likely driving that for themselves. These are some of the emerging findings that are coming out in our latest report that was delivered in October, and then we have a final report that will be delivered in June, July this year. So some of it's quite good. It's showing that we are hitting the mark of what we are wanting to achieve, but there's also some areas where, you know, there could be some improvement. So for example, there was mixed feedback around access to and navigating the website. Some people really loved it, and others were finding some things that we could improve on. So we've been frantically trying to make those improvements as we go. It's quite a large website, so we don't expect everything to be perfect, and we know we're going to need to continually update it and review that. For the network, one of the areas for improvement was, and I don't know if it is an area for improvement, but it's a finding that's coming out that our network members tend to be more passive than active. And so my definition around that is that they're not actively posting all the time on the community feed, but we can see people are logging on, they're digesting the information, they're attending events, they're reading the emails that get sent out. And there is there's over 340 people, network members across Australia. So there'd be a portion of that who are active, but then there's other people who benefit just from sort of being connected to that network, knowing they can engage in whichever way they choose to, when they choose to. So I'm just going to hand over now to Hayley just to talk about from a lived experience perspective. So Hayley kindly joined us in our journey as a co-design team member, and we had a change in lived experience lead last year as they went on to another opportunity, and I was so grateful that Hayley put her hand up for the role. So she actually moved from a co-design team member into the lived experience lead role for us.
Thanks, Donna. Yeah, so it's like I love hearing Donna talk about the evaluations and all of the logic that went on behind the program. Because I was a co-design team member, I didn't really know what was going on there. I just sort of was showing up, I was contributing, I was asking questions. And so I guess what I'm going to talk through is what was it like as a team member? What were my experiences and what were some of the lessons from that lived experience perspective and maybe some of the observations? And so Donna kind of said, when I was asking her about this presentation and kind of going, oh gosh, yeah, where do I start? She said, well, you know, based on this project, what would you say to a project manager who's about to venture off, who's about to set sail? And it's like, oh, yeah, okay, that's a really good consideration. And so I think that some of the things that I've observed, but also some considerations for others, is really thinking about how to engage and value the team. And you heard Donna throughout this presentation talk about the fact that it was a team, and Donna was a member of the team also, despite the fact that she was kind of it felt like the captain of the ship in a really positive way, but also was like scrubbing the decks as well, and would come to the team and say, okay, I've had a thought, I'm feeling challenged in this area. How do we need to move forward? And that was incredible, because there were times when we might have sort of, I'm going to use a lot. I really do like analogies, so I'm really sticking with this sailing analogy. But we tried to set sail. We went out there, and then we went, oh my gosh, we didn't reinforce the boat. There's a hole in the sail. There's a hole in the bottom of the boat, whatever that's called. And so we had to go back to shore and actually reinforce the boat and say to ourselves, where are we going here? And so that happened, that I think we started out really keen to design something, and I didn't know that it sort of felt a bit like, oh, what's happening here? It feels a bit clunky. But it was Donna, I think maybe through having conversations with other team members and through reflecting, came to a meeting one day and said, I think we're focused on the design, and we need to take a step back and spend some time building our team and getting to know each other and sharing our experiences. And as soon as that happened, it was like, yes, that is absolutely what we needed. And so what we did as a result of that is each of us got to express and share what expertise and knowledge and value we were bringing, and also better understanding what other people were bringing to the group, so we could better tap into the knowledge of each of the group members. I think also another lesson is the role of communication and how it took place. I think that Donna was always very transparent, and the team were very transparent with each other as much as they could be, but recognizing that there's only so much that is actually appropriate to be shared as well, and there's only so much the team will want everybody else to know. And so I was really happy with the level of communication that we had in terms of what are our goals and how we're trying to do this. And if there was ever any time it felt that we were moving out of co-design, not that we ever did, but it's sort of, oh, does it feel like we're going on the wrong track for a moment, then it would be brought to the group and discussed, so we could all make a collective decision. And I also think that in terms of that participation, sometimes if you're like rowing the boat and it looks like someone else has dropped an oar, and you're kind of going, am I putting in more effort than that person? But we don't know that they're at the back trying to install a motor. And so sometimes what you're looking at in a co-design team is not sure what everyone's bringing and how everyone's sharing the load. But I guess that communication to a co-design team to trust that everybody is showing up and everyone is doing the best they can, and knowing the difference of when to say, listen, so-and-so's got this going on and they've told me it's okay for me to share this, and when to just say, we got this, we're all in this together. And I guess the final point in a lived experience lesson on this slide is knowing the importance of diverse voices and various consumer perspectives. So if Donna, if you could jump to the next slide, I just want to briefly talk to some work by Indigo Daya, which is a conceptual model for welcoming diverse and challenging consumer and survivor views in mental health research, policy and practice. And so this is a paper, it's available in the resources. It's a conceptual model proposed in the paper, and describes 4 categories of diverse consumer survivor experiences and voices and views which may not otherwise be evident to people working in the mental health policy, research and practice. So underpinning the model is the hypothesis that views are influenced by experiences, and further that consumer survivor experiences of treatment are distinct from experiences of care. So Indigo has a great video on YouTube where she's talking through the paper. So basically, just to put it really simply, and this is oversimplifying it, it looks at the four roles that people with diverse voices, there could be an activist role, a transformer, a humanist, and a facilitator. And these are often our experiences. So let's say, for example, if I've experienced mental health treatment and the treatment has been really positive, I've really liked it, it's created good outcomes for my life, and also the people who provided that treatment gave positive care, then I'm going to leave that treatment experience going, this is awesome, oh my gosh, everyone should go to that place and receive that treatment, it was such a good experience. So I become a facilitator trying to draw people into the same thing. Whereas if I have had negative treatment and also received negative care, so it was not effective, there were terrible outcomes, and the people who provided it were not good or helpful, then I'm going to become an activist and talk about reform and how we need to change systems to make things better. Now, if you have a co-design team full of facilitators, people who've had a facilitator experience, recognising people have lots of different experiences with lots of different treatments, but for example, then you probably will have quite a positive group, or we're probably going to work together very well, but we may be missing some of the points of view from those other roles. And if you have all activists, then we're not trying to create an information thing, we're just trying to tell everyone that we need to reform the system. Whereas if you think about this conceptual model and think about when recruiting, what lens are we looking through? And when we talk to people, we're not looking at recruiting people with different diagnoses. That's not the goal, and that is not what you want to look at. But potentially thinking through some of these things and understanding what lens different co-design team members are bringing, so they can provide that diverse perspective in this consideration, but also with other considerations as well, such as life experience, location, age, gender, and sexuality, and cultural diversity as well. But certainly this is a big consideration as well. So Indigo will go into this for about an hour in her presentation, so I'll leave it to her if you want to watch her video. But those are some brief thoughts about lived experience lessons and my experience on the team, and some things you can think about. But I'll hand back over to Donna, and then we'll hopefully have a Q&A shortly. Oh, you're muted, I think, Donna.
Yeah, it always happens. Once a day. It was just a final thought that I wanted to share around, evaluation as a mirror through which we see reflections of our efforts, illuminating both our success and areas in need of improvement. It's not about just measuring the outcomes, but understanding the journey that led to them. So I think for us, that really summarized our experience. And there are a few resources that we've talked about today. One I didn't speak about, but has come out more recently, is the Lived Experience Governance Framework. And there's also a toolkit that goes with this. So I would really encourage people to look at that resource. It was developed by Leland. So and it will link you to a whole range of other resources as well associated with that. But thank you, and we'll open up now for any questions. And just remembering that we have Sue in the background as well.
Thanks so much, Donna and Hayley. That was a fantastic snapshot of what seems like a huge volume of work, and some really high quality work too. And you've touched on a few things that I think many people on the line will have experienced in their own work, which is knowing what good process can look like, and often working within the parameters of short funding contracts, timeframes, which is often, one of the longer contracts and timeframes. So it's obviously a greater enabling factor to doing this kind of work, and that's often something that this sector struggles to resource.
Yes.
I can see a question there from Nicole, I think it was. I'll have to scroll up a little bit. Just around the actual process of engaging those with lived experience into the process. I'm wondering if the governance toolkit touches on that in greater detail. Or if you would like to speak to that.
I think I can start with, so because I saw it earlier, and so MIFA has the immense value of being part of a federated model to some degree, and so MIFA is sort of the national body, and we've got state representatives. So I'm from WA, so I was working for MIFWA at the time, which is the Mental Illness Fellowship WA, and so it meant that when they went, oh, we're creating a national resource, let's tap into each of our member organisations in different states. And they emailed, and Donna, you can correct me, but this is my perspective of what happened. They emailed the CEOs of each of those organisations saying, this is what we're doing. We're looking for lived experience and care, like lived experience consumer and carer representatives. Can you please share this around? And my CEO at MIFWA sent it straight to me and said, I think you'd be great for this team. Are you interested? And I was like, absolutely. And so that's how I got involved. It was sort of through those networks. But I know that there was also some people, not necessarily, like not everyone was working for their organisation. Some people would have been connected through other ways. But Donna, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so that was one element. The other element was that we also recruited from the National Consumer and Carer Register that is partnered through Mental Health Australia. So at the time, they were one of the most well-known national bodies for lived experience experts. So we wanted to tap into an existing network, but also then tap into our own networks on the ground at each state and territory. So we had a blend. And so we went through a recruitment process with that. They handled it in-house, but we said this is who we're after, and then they nominated people from that Consumer and Carer National Register as well to join. We did have about 10 people in the co-designs, probably not what you would name as a huge co-design group, but it was around what could we afford to do, how often we wanted to meet, how could we go about, how many people is going to be too much to sort of work with. Particularly, we're doing everything online at this point. We couldn't leave our homes at that stage. So yeah, you could have gone bigger maybe, but I think considering what we had to design and co-create, 10 was a really good number for us.
There is I know we're right at time. We've got about 2 minutes. We've got a question here from Ariel about remuneration and what that might look like. And I know there's many different perspectives on this. Any advice or resources that you would point people towards about that?
We lent on our friends from the National Consumer and Carer Network, and we modelled our prices. So at the moment it was about $83 per hour. That was for our committee meetings. And I believe they modelled their price off government guidelines as well around that. So, and we wanted to make sure people were really fairly remunerated. So we went for what we thought was the top tier of that. Yeah,
fantastic. Thank you. I'm sure there would be lots of other questions, and I encourage those on the line to look through the post-event email that we will send out with the resources, and of course get in contact with Donna and Hayley and MIFA if you would like to talk to them in greater detail about this, the project Finding North, and check out the website. It really is a fantastic resource, and thanks so much, Donna and Hayley, for sharing it with us today. Lots to learn from, and yeah, fantastic work. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Apologies that there wasn't enough time for Q&A, but I'd also encourage you to reach out to Sue and Young Futures for their evaluation expertise. Honestly, couldn't have done it without them. They were such good guidance in this process.
Great point, and I think I'm seeing a increase in the use of external evaluation partners, which I think is fantastic. I think that's a really great thing to be incorporating into our project proposals, our project design, resourcing, costing. Really great work. Thanks so much. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I was just going to say, last point, when I met with DSS, they were more keen to refund projects who were externally evaluated than those that weren't.
Yeah.
So that came direct from their policy mouths. So even though it's not explicit and they can't ask you to do it, they certainly want external evaluation as part of people's projects.
Yeah. Well, we bring in other partners with expertise in different areas, and why shouldn't it be that way for evaluation, really? Yeah, set ourselves up for success and being able to learn from our projects. Fantastic. I'm going to talk very, very quickly. I'm going to say this as quickly but as reasonably as I can, which is if you're interested in joining the Teams forums for either the Quality Collaboration Network or the Research and Evaluation Network, there is a link that will be dropped into the chat. You can apply to be part of that Microsoft Team network. I also want to talk about very briefly about the resources available on Community Door, and many of the sessions that these networks have run on YouTube. So you can find our YouTube playlist and find sessions just like this one today listed there. We have got a few upcoming events, and my colleagues with their quick fingers are dropping things in the chat now. We have data privacy and capturing consent from vulnerable cohorts. That's coming up early in May. If you would like to register for that, for the Quality Collaboration Network and the Research Evaluation Network. We've also got data governance and benchmarking, another hot topic coming up in July, if you would like to register for that one. For those who are perhaps on a board or management committee, or you know that your board or management committee might need a bit of a helping hand, we have a series of governance workshops this year that we've partnered with Justice Connect to host. And our first one, which is next week, is all around mastering meetings. We know hosting a meeting is something that sounds really easy, but in reality can be quite challenging. Maybe if you're hosting a co-design process, that would be true. When you throw in interpersonal dynamics into the other requirements of governance requirements, things can get very interesting. So this workshop will all be around how you really master hosting a governance meeting. We also have evaluation excellence in the community controlled sector coming up in May. Amy, did you want to very quickly touch on this one?
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much, Donna and Hayley. It was a really great presentation. So there's one more webinar from the Health Translation Queensland, which is coming up on the 16th of April, and that will be on Indigenous data sovereignty. So they've already had a webinar on data governance and data management and analytics. And then also from the Data Catalyst Network, if you want to move to the next slide, it's the national group, which is supporting the not-for-profit sector in all things data as well. And so they have their next webinar coming up on the 24th of April, and that's on tools to get control of your data. And that presentation is by the Benevolent Society and Microsoft, talking about the tool Fabric. So you can contact Kristen Moller-Saxon if you're interested in connecting with that network, or for more information and an invitation to that session as well.
Thanks, Amy. Very fast and furious from us. Apologies that was very quick, but you will get an email from our team very soon with all of those things linked. This is us. This is our team here who've coordinated and hosted this session today. So thanks to my colleagues Kelly and Amy for providing all of the links and support and prep for this. Go well to all of you. We hope to see you online again soon, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, everyone. Oh, Kelly, I'm wondering if you might be able to put the poll up.
Yep, I'm launching it now.
If anyone can fill out our poll for us, we would greatly appreciate it before you jump off.
Sorry, something froze on my screen.
That's okay. It's come up. It's come up.
Has it? Good.
Yeah, we can see.
In my rush to let everyone go, I forgot to mention it. Sorry.
Oh well. Yeah.
There we
go. And then I
got
pressed
some
the
responses.
button and it went. My screen did that thing where it goes like a window goes a little bit sort of duller, and I'm like, oh, it's not responding.
It's all good. We've got some people responding now. So thanks
Lovely.
to those who stayed on for an extra minute to do that. Appreciate it. Thanks, Sandra. We hope to see you again soon. And yes, Asher, if you're still on the line, we will put all of those meeting invitations into the email. You'll get all of those.
Oh, the poll's not working for Asha. Sorry about that.
Ah,
I don't know why that. We've got a few responses, so it's working for some people, but not others by the looks.
That's right. Asher, you're very welcome. We also take qualitative feedback, so if you'd like to just let us know in a comment how you found it, if you've got some thoughts, that's also something we include in our evaluation, so you're welcome to do that. Thanks, Donna and Hayley, so much. That was really, that was really interesting. I wish we had more time because there were so many more things that I think there's a lot there though in the resources that people will be able to unpack.
Yeah, so sorry about that. That was my pet peeve is like when there's not enough time for Q&A and I did it to you guys. So I'm so sorry because I think there could have been a lot of value from the Q&A. But
yeah. No, that's fine. It's very easy to do.
My screen was complete. Once you blinked down, then I couldn't see the time or anything. So I was just like, oh no.
Yeah.
I think we've all experienced that.
Yeah, totally.
Hard to even keep your mind to that when you're speaking as well. That's a tricky thing to keep your eye on all of those things.
Yeah, we could have definitely gone for an hour and a half, but
absolutely, yeah. That's okay. We'll just have to do it again. We'll have to do a follow-up session at some point. Yeah. Okay, I think most people have exited now, so I might close it down. So again, just big thanks to both of you. I really enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, and you too. Enjoy the rest of your day.
I'll see you in the
Thanks for
office
getting up
next
early.
week.
Yes, exactly. Thanks very much. Goodbye.
Thanks so much. Have a nice day.